Hello.
Thank you, sir. That's what I'm thinking, that if yours hasn't been
that square.
It's the ones that are blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
Right in that.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we have a motion to excuse Sean from the
I'll make that motion.
Moving second, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Sean is excused. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the amended agenda for October 10, 2023.
Second. Moving seconded. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Next up is the consent agenda.
I'll move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moving second, is there any discussion, questions?
I just got one, Scott, on the first page of accounts payable. Cooper cleaning service. Carpet cleaning on the Wilshire Drive. Do we have a problem?
We did. With the street work that was going on down there and the water work, whenever we're doing any street work, we're replacing the lead lines going into the house. That location, the caulking around the pipe going into the house was faulty, and there were some flooding issues that occurred. So we're covering the cost of cleaning the basement carpeting.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no.
No.
Consent agenda is approved. Next up, messages from the mayor, city council, and city manager. Scott, please.
Some money issues to throw at you. The first is we received notice that the Funnel Field Spark Grant was rejected. We'd asked for $675,000 from the state of Michigan with a $105,000 local match. That was the money. I think Mr. Connell, you brought it up before, the property sale on Lake Street. That was $105,000. So we didn't get the grant, so we'll look at using that money for park improvements elsewhere with 2 other grants that we still have open. On the good side now, the Friends of the Playhouse, I don't know if I passed this on to council in an email, they were able to secure a $25,000 operational grant for the Playhouse for next summer. The Friends of the Playhouse are starting to, getting back together and being active again and doing what they can to assist the Playhouse and apply for grants. And the last is that the RAP grant, which is always with acronyms. Revitalization and placemaking, that's more COVID money that fell out of the skies. We joined with Greater Muskegon Economic Development and the Right Place out of Grand Rapids and submitted a combined grant application. It was 9.9 million. The state awarded 6.2 million. All of the parties that were involved in that group application were asked to reduce their, or be willing to take a reduction in what they were asking for. And I actually, well, they were asking everybody to take a 17% cut. We had applied for $275,000 for the West Colby Promenade, and we will receive $247,500. So we lost a big grant at Funnel Field, but a lot of those Parks and Rec grants are extremely competitive now. But we will be adding over about $270,000 to our coffers in the other two grants. So I guess we're batting 667, which is Hall of Fame.
Very good.
Did they say how close we were to this partner, or no? They don't give any idea?
I have not seen anything other than just the denial. A lot of times they will give a ranking. That's what they did with the Goodrich Park and the G Park. And I think I brought that back to council. They score you, then you're given about a week to try and improve the score, which we did, or at least we attempted to, and we haven't heard back from those two as yet. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Jeff?
Nothing tonight.
Scott?
I need to ask to possibly be excused from our next council meeting. I don't know if I'm going to need to or not. I come back from vacation that day, supposed to land in Grand Rapids at noon, but everybody knows how flights go. So I guess pre-planning, I just assume ask for it now, and rather than being here and not be able to call and say I'm not gonna be here and why.
Fine.
I'll make that motion. Excuse me.
And second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. All right. So you have a
Thank you.
pretty excused. That's all you have?
That's all I have.
Okay. Scott?
Oh, just, do we have a scheduled start for DPEC?
I don't know if we have yet.
I haven't seen a newsletter yet.
Gosh, if I could remember the date. It's before Halloween, I remember that. I
It was
think it's a
October
holidays.
27th.
Yeah, thank you. I think
That's
you're
what I
right.
was
Mhm.
told by-
It was in the spring one, when we were putting in, when we were, when the branch pickup was gonna be and all that, I think it.
It gave us a
I think
pre-date
it
on
gave
it.
the fall date.
Yep, that sounds correct,
I think that's
October
what it was.
27th.
It's a Friday, so.
October 27th. Hopefully the leaves are gonna be down.
Mhm.
Hey.
Nothing tonight.
Nothing to see. All right, well, what I have is, last week, the, Harbor Light Credit Union on their, Credit Union Kind Day for 2023 brought a group of people out to Goodrich Park and did a really nice cleanup around the Liberty Swing. It's been in dire need of cleaning up those flower beds and did a great job, so kudos to them. And that's all I have. Next up is public comment. Anyone like to make any comment to the council? Step forward. Your name? Appears there is no one at this point. Okay, we'll move on to old business. Do we have any old business?
We do not, Your Honor.
New business, resolution 2336, marina rates.
I'll move, resolution 2336, changing marina rates.
Second.
Been moved in second, is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Signa,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Connell,
Yes,
and Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2336 is approved. Resolution 2337, lot split request.
I'll move to accept resolution 2337, not split.
Second.
Been moved in second, is there any discussion?
Uh,
Questions?
yeah, I have a couple questions. Scott, looking at the zoning that's in the green spot up there on the map, is that part of the LDFA? Is that why? And unable to be used for housing?
As an open space, yes.
Okay. Alright, cause I figured that would be some really nice locations for houses. And it's 200 foot, but I guess if we can't, we can't. Alright, that answers my question. Thank you, sir.
Is it okay for industrial development? You know, for the people that bought it, they're in the industrial park, can they add on into that space, or do they just own it?
We would have to go back and rezone it.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Is there multiples that are looking at that, or are all of them looking at?
All four of the adjacent property owners, 3 of the 4 have signed purchase agreements. The 4th has given a verbal commitment to purchase.
Who ready?
Alright, if there's no further discussion, roll call please.
Connell,
Yes,
Sittinga,
Yes.
Heidelberg,
Yeah.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2337. Resolution 2338, police administration vehicle.
I'll move resolution 2338, brand new detective car to Ripma, no bid.
Been moved and
did you second?
Yes.
Heidelberg.
Is there any?
I had one question. So we're buying in 2023 or 2024?
2024.
Okay. Up at the top it says 2023.
Yeah, that's what we had bid out.
Okay.
And Ripma came back with, I think it was $1,000 increase for 2024, which was still $3,000 cheaper than the next lowest bid. So we get a year newer, still cheaper.
Is this just a regular front wheel drive or is it an all wheel drive?
It's an all-wheel drive.
Correct.
What do you think you could get one?
So this is a 3-year lease, and then an option to buy.
Yep, at the end of the year, it's $1. We've done this with the last 2 or 3 police cruisers. It just spreads the hit out a little bit over, 3 fiscal years versus all in one.
No further questions, roll call please.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes,
Connell,
yes,
Sittinga,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2338. Resolution 2339, EDA grant.
I'll make a motion, we approve the EDA grant. Resolution 2339.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions?
Yes. So we applied for 2.1 million for 2 things, and then they reduced it to 1.8 million, and I assume that's just for the Warner Street project, that doesn't include the replace the Light Street sewer lift station.
No, it will. We had applied for 2.1 million and it was just denied 2 years ago, a year ago. And Tuesday morning, I got a call from GMED, Greater Muskegon Economic Development, and they indicated we have a 99.9% chance of getting an $800,000 grant. But what we have to do is add that, because Warner Street right now is about $1 million. So we're adding $800,000, and probably about $500,000 will go towards the Lake Street lift station. So we're going to throw that in. Before, we were going to do Warner Street, the entire length of Warner Street and the lift station with the grant. We didn't get it, so we cut Warner Street down and dropped the Lake Street. So with this grant and this project at 1.8 million, it'll be Warner Street plus the lift station, and we might be able to go a little bit further north on Warner Street.
well, that was my question too, when you said it's scaled back. How far back are we scaling?
Well, we're not scaling back on Warner Street at all. That prior project was gonna we initially applied for a grant to completely rebuild Warner Street and do the Lake Street lift station. When we didn't get that grant, we scaled back Warner Street. So with this grant, the Warner Street is gonna stay the same scope, and we're gonna add the Lake Street lift station, and if bids come in, we'll take Warner Street further north if we can.
So where is Warner Street?
Well, I mean, Warner was supposed to be from Colby to Benson, wasn't it?
It is, initially it was, but we scaled that back, and I don't know where we stopped. But we weren't gonna be able to do the whole thing, but we were doing a majority of Warner Street.
Well, anything's gonna be better than nothing, but I'd like to see Warner Street go all the way.
At least to the one that goes in front of the school, Slocum, right? You got the one that
Um,
goes in front of the,
Yeah, I'm not sure of the length that we actually have currently going. I will verify that and let council know.
but it's really tore up on, above the football field there.
Yep.
Pretty nasty.
Is that a complete rebuild, Scott, or is that a resurface, or both, or?
I don't know offhand. I know the southern end is a complete rebuild because that's where we're putting water in.
Yep.
But we might be able to resurface the rest of the length because I don't think there's much utility work at the north end.
More than that.
Okay. Moved and seconded, for any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Connell,
Yeah,
Salter.
Yes. Resolution 2339 is approved. Next is 2303 corner lot side yard setback.
I move to accept it. Second.
Moved and seconded, so any discussion?
Just have one question.
Yes.
A restricted commercial district would be what?
That's a small stretch on Colby Street and a little bit down on Mears, primarily in the residential area where some of the residential properties are being converted into businesses.
Okay, perfect.
Jack, can you tell me why, they asked for a variance? Why are we going all the way with a
Well,
change?
they didn't actually ask for a variance. It started with a property owner of a vacant piece of property on a corner lot, and the practical difficulty is they could only have a 22-foot wide home. And when she brought that up, she is actually an assistant planner down in Texas, so we were talking apples and apples together, which is always nice. She had realized that she would have to go to a variance to build wider than 22 feet. And if you look at our criteria in the zoning ordinance, it should be denied. It probably would fail at least 3 of the 5 criteria. And our approach at City Hall is always, let's see what we can do to make the customer happy. So I took a look at her neighborhood and then went out a couple of more blocks and found that a huge majority of the homes are well short of 30 feet. And our new zoning ordinances do allow, if a house burns down, the old ordinance said if it's destroyed to 75%, you have to relocate and build in conformity with the new ordinances. We got rid of that, so if those houses burn down that are already non-conforming, they can build on the same footprint. Kind of like we've put up with these homes being too close to the road for 100 years. What's another 100 years? So we took a look at that and found that for all intents and purposes, a majority of the homes are violating this ordinance. And changing the ordinance will make it more buildable, and any other lots that are vacant in the city on the corner lots would probably remain difficult to build on if we don't make this change. 22 feet is less than the width of this council chambers. We also added in that adequate sight lines, because that was, I think, maybe one of the major concerns at planning about the sight lines. But that's why we added, providing you have adequate vision at the corners to see around. So it was kind of brought up by one individual, which kind of opened up a door to maybe there are, more issues than just this one vacant house. Vacant lot.
I can understand it in a certain neighborhood, and I'm familiar with a lot in question. And that neighborhood, I can see where it's not gonna be a big deal. But I'm a little concerned with the rest of the city. There's a lot of cases where, that 8-foot setback on a corner lot could drastically affect the neighbor. In a lot of cases, your side yard becomes your neighbor's front yard. And I know my neighborhood in particular, I mean, if the neighbor on the corner on Warner was to be able to go over within 8 foot of this side lot, that wouldn't be pleasing at all. I would much rather see this somehow done either on a variance or I don't know how we can work around it, but I hate seeing changing the entire zoning ordinance to allow a smaller setback on those corner lots.
What we can do, and this is, I'm throwing it out to the council and to Will, it could read 8 feet providing adequate well, let's just forget that part for now. 8 feet or no closer than the established setback. So what you're saying, if there's a bunch of homes here and somebody builds 8 feet, they're out in front of those other homes. We could restrict them by that established setback. If the other houses are all 20 feet, they would have to stay no closer than 20 feet with the established setback line. That might address your concerns, and I think that's permissible, wouldn't it be?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that should be fine.
Because we allow people to build closer to the established setback line. I think what your concern is that they will be able to build beyond the established setback line with the 8 feet.
Well, and I mean, the lot that we're talking about, if you look at the neighbor behind them, now, they are probably 30 feet off that street. So, using your theory now, I mean, they wouldn't, she'd still be limited if she couldn't go past the neighbor's house behind her.
Well, the established setback is the average of all the houses within 200 feet on either side. So we would be able to probably take in 3 lots for an average setback. So they might be able to build closer, but probably not yet to the 8 feet.
I guess what I don't
It's a
understand,
little confusing.
yeah, I don't understand, I thought the right of way is 33 feet from the center line of the road, correct, or not? It depends on the road.
If the road is put perfectly in the road right away. In general, yes, you have 33 feet. Most of our streets, half a street is about 12 to 14 feet wide. So you'd still be left with 16 feet between road edge and property line. And then the setback would be another 8 feet. So now you're 24 feet from the edge of the street to the buildable line.
So you're saying the 8 feet starts at the end of the right of way?
Correct.
Not the edge of the road.
Correct.
The end of the right.
Yep. And that's what a lot of people, I get a lot of site plans where people measure from the edge of the road, and that's, they have to submit from their property line.
I guess what doesn't compute with me then is if there's 15 feet of the right of way left from the road into the lot, and then you add another 8 feet, that's what, 23 feet?
Correct.
How far do you gotta stay off the other property line?
The standard is 8 feet off the side property lines. Unless it's a corner lot, then it's 30 feet. Front yard and rear yard is 30 feet.
I mean, the lot's only 60 foot wide, so.
Yep.
if you're taking 24 foot on one side and 8 foot on the other side,
Well, we're only taking, under this, their setback goes from their property line. So that 60-foot lot, if they're a corner lot, you have to have an 8-foot setback on one side of the property and 30 feet on the other. So now you've got 38 feet, which leaves you with the 22 feet buildable.
That's the fire prevention parade, so don't get yourself wrong.
No, nobody go running.
so the right of way isn't part of the 60 foot of the lot.
No.
Okay, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like I said, will turn in site plans measuring from the edge of the road. But usually you're gonna have 15 to 20 feet from the edge of the road to their property line.
So where does the fence fit in? If somebody wants a fence, that's gotta be back that much.
You can have a fence on your property line, and in the front yard, you're restricted to 42 inches in height. Side yards and rear yards can go up to 8 feet. And I think 10 if you got a tennis court. I think it might be 8.
Keeping deer out one way or another.
Yeah.
And then deer never jump.
No, they would never make it over that.
Well, I don't know, I am not real comfortable with this, the way it's written. I'd like to, normally I won't second guess, planning commission, but I hate opening up a can of worms and having people trying to build too close on those corner lots. I'd rather handle it somehow on an individual level.
I think that becomes a little more problematic.
Right, yeah, you can only really do that with the variance.
I think planning had some discussion on that also, did they not?
Yeah, there was a pretty lively discussion on all of the concerns, and I think from what I kind of gathered was the vision, the clear vision area was probably the key to this. But again, if we're, if you're really maintaining, if it's a front yard, you've got a 30-foot setback, plus probably 15 feet to the edge of the road. So now you got 45 feet before a car's in the vision, and on the other side, the 23 feet you mentioned. So we don't believe that it'll be a vision issue, but the zoning administrator could also deny one that has some visibility issues.
That would take care of your issue of wanting to do an individual.
What's that?
That would take care of your issue of wanting to be able to handle it individually.
What was the side step? 20,
Well,
The zoning administrator
45
being
in the
able
front
to
and
make that decision.
Well, if you've got a 14-foot lane and 30-foot, 33 feet, that's actually 19 feet from road edge to the property line. And then another 8 feet under this scenario would be 27 feet. Well, right now it would be 48 feet.
If this doesn't pass, and can they get a variance? They would want a variance on the property before they were built.
Correct.
If they were granted a variance, does the variance stay with the property if they were to sell it?
It does.
So it's not something that would be a contingency for somebody else to buy it. It would have to be reestablished or anything like that.
No. Variances and special use permits run with the land.
But the variance, this particular property could not get a variance. I sit on the planning and we looked at that, and there's 5 requirements that have to be met, and this property doesn't meet those, so we could not legally give them a variance. So So this was a way, as Scott said, trying to
Make it a buildable lot.
make it a buildable lot for them. And it, right, it has some sticky parts of it that the planning commission wasn't all that enthused about, but I think this is the best situation for tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tough call.
I just hate changing, a complete ordinance for something like that. I'm just afraid we're opening up a can of worms if we do.
Talked it out enough, call for a vote. If there's no further questions, then roll call please.
Heidelberg,
Yes.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Connell,
No,
Brown,
Against my better judgment, no.
Holmstrom,
Yes.
Salter,
Yes. Ordinance 2303 corner lots, yard setback is approved. Next up is public comment. This is where the students come and introduce themselves and tell us their name and their teacher. In order to get their favorite sign, this is what you need to do. So, step up to the podium and start it off.
Somebody be the brave one.
Yeah.
I'm Austin Davis, from Mr. Brunson's 6-hour class in world government.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Leatherman, I'm from Mr. Brunson's 7th-hour government course.
Thank you.
I'm Jordan Armstrong, and I'm for government.
Thank you.
I'm also back and I'm part of 6-hour government class among youth. I'm Lexi report from Mr. Brunson's 7th-hour government class at Mountain View, Michigan.
Thank you.
I'm Karen Roman, I'm from Mr. Brunson's 7th-hour class as well.
Thank you. Wasn't so hard.
That didn't hurt too bad, did it?
All right. Is there anyone that has anything else they'd like to say? Okay, thank you all for coming. We're adjourned. Bring your papers up and we'll sign them.
Hey, you start that for the frame.
Okay, so